Sinead O'Connor, the outspoken Irish singer-songwriter, known for her powerful voice and showcased on her biggest hit, a breathtaking rendition of Prince's Nothing Compares to You, and for her political provocations on stage and off, has died. Sinead O'Connor was 56. Her longtime friend and Irish musician and activist confirmed her death, as did her family in a statement, according to the BBC and Irish public broadcaster RTE. It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved Sinead. The statement said her family and friends are devastated and have requested privacy at this very difficult time. On Thursday, the police in London said that Mrs. O'Connor's body had been found on Wednesday at a private home in the city. The death is not being treated as suspicious, the police said in a statement. Recognized by her shaved head and by wide eyes that could appear pained or full of rage, Miss O'Connor released 10 studio albums, beginning with the alternative hit The Lion and the Cobra in 1987. She went on to sell millions of albums worldwide, breaking out with I Do Not Want What I Have and Got in 1990. That album, featuring Nothing Compares to You, a #1 hit around the world and an MTV staple, won a Grammy Award in 1991 for Best Alternative Music Performance. Although Mrs. O'Connor's boycotted the ceremony over what she called the show's extensive commercialism, Mrs. O'Connor rarely shrank from controversy in and of itself. But it often came with consequences for her career. In 1990, she threatened to cancel a performance in New Jersey if the Star Spangled Banner was played at the concert hall ahead of her appearance, drawing the ire of no less than Frank Sinatra. That same year, she backed out of an appearance on Saturday Night Live in protest of the misogyny she perceived in the comedy of Andrew Dice Clay, who was scheduled to host. But all of that paled in comparison to the uproar caused when Miss O'Connor, appearing on SNL, aka Saturday Night Live, in 1992, shortly after the release of her third album, Am I Not Your Girl? Am I Not Your Girl? Ended in an a cappella performance of Bob Marley's War by ripping a photo of Pope John Paul II into pieces as a stance against sexual abuse in the Roman Catholic Church. Fight the real enemy, she said. That incident immediately made her a target of criticism and scorn from social conservatives and beyond. 2 weeks after her SNL appearance, she was loudly booed at a Bob Dylan tribute concert in Madison Square Garden. She had planned to perform Mr. Dylan's I Believe in You, but she sang War again, rushing off the stage before she had finished. For a time, the vitriol directed at Mrs. O'Connor was so pervasive that it became a kind of pop culture meme in and of itself. On SNL in early 1993, Madonna mocked the controversy by tearing up a picture of Joey Buttafuoco, a Long Island auto mechanic who was a tabloid figure at the time because of his affair with a 17-year-old girl. Once a rising star, Miss O'Connor then stumbled I Am Not Your Girl, an album of jazz pop standards like Why Don't You Do Right and Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered, Stalled on the charts at number 27, and her next album, Universal Mother, in 1994, went no higher than number 36. The British musician Tim Burgess of the band Charlatans, known in the United States as Charlatans UK, wrote on Twitter Wednesday, Shanae was the true embodiment of a punk spirit. She did not compromise, and that made her life more of a struggle. Ms. O'Connor never had another major hit in the United States after The Emperor's New Clothes, from I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, although for a time she remained a staple on the British charts. But in her 2021 memoir, Rememberings, Mrs. O'Connor portrayed ripping up the photo of the Pope as a righteous act of protest, and therefore a success. I feel that having a #1 record derailed my career, she wrote, and tearing the photo put me right back on track. She elaborated in an interview with the New York Times that the same year, calling the incident an act of defiance against the constraints of pop stardom. I'm not sorry I did it. It was brilliant, Miss O'Connor said. But it was very traumatizing. And it was open season on treating me like a crazy bitch. Shanae Marie Burnett O'Connor was born in Gleneaglery, a suburb of Dublin, in December 8th, 1966. Her father, John, was an engineer. Her mother, Joanna, was a dressmaker. In interviews and in her memoir, Miss O'Connor spoke openly about having a traumatic childhood. She said that her mother physically abused her and that she had been deeply affected by her parents' separation, which happened when she was only 8. In her teens, she was arrested for shoplifting and sent to reform schools. When she was 15, Miss O'Connor sang Evergreen, the love theme from A Star is Born, made famous by Barbra Streisand at a wedding, and was discovered by Paul Bryn, a drummer who had an affiliation with the Irish band U2. She left boarding school at 16 and began her career supporting herself by waitressing and performing kissograms at a kinky French-made costume. Lion and the Cobra, the title is an allusion to Psalm 91, marked her as a rising talent with a spiritual heart, an ear for offbeat melody, and a fierce and combative style. Her music drew from 1980s vintage alternative rock, hip-hop, and flashes of Celtic folk that came through when her voice raised to high registers. She drew headlines for defending the Irish Republican Army and publicly jeered U2, whose members supported her as bombastic. She also said that she had rejected attempts by her record company, Ensign, to adopt a more conservative image. Leaders of the label wanted me to wear high-heeled boots, tight jeans, and grow out my hair, she told Rolling Stones in 1991. I decided that they were so pathetic that I shaved my head so there wouldn't be any further discussions. Nothing Compares to You, originally released by The Family, a Prince side project in 1985, became a phenomenon when Ms. O'Connor released it 5 years later. The video for the song, the camera closely zooming in on her emotive face, was hypnotic. Miss Connor's voice, as it raised from delicate, breathy notes to powerful crisis, stopped listeners in their tracks. Singers like Alanis Morissette cited Miss O'Connor's work from this period as a key influence. Long after Nothing Compares became a hit, Ms. O'Connor accused Prince of physically threatening her. She elaborated on the story in her memoir, saying that Prince at his Hollywood mansion chastised her for swearing in interviews and suggested a pillow fight, only to hit her with something hard that was in the pillowcase. She escaped on foot in the middle of the night, and Prince chased her around the highway. The effects of childhood trauma and finding ways to fight and heal became a central part of her work and personal physiology or philosophy. Sorry. The cause of all of the world's problems, as far as I'm concerned, is child abuse. I'm going to say that again. Sinead O'Connor's direct words: the cause of all the world's problems, as far as I'm concerned, is child abuse. That's what she's told Spin magazine in 1991. Her mother, which she described as an alcoholic, died when she was 18. She said in her memoir that on that day her mother died, she took a picture of the Pope on her mother's wall, and that was the photo that she destroyed on television. As her music career slowed, Miss O'Connor, who had been open in the past about her mental health struggles, became an increasingly erratic public figure, often sharing unfiltered opinions and personal details on social media. Miss O'Connor said in 2012 that she had been misdiagnosed and that she was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder stemming from a history of child abuse. Recovery from child abuse is a life's work, she told People magazine. Several years ago, she converted to Islam, started using a different name, even though she continued to answer to O'Connor as well. Complete information on survivors was not immediately available. Miss O'Connor had 2 brothers, 1 sister, as well as 3 stepsisters and a stepbrother. She wrote in her memoir that she was married 4 times and that she had 4 children. In discussing her memoir with the Times in 2021, Miss O'Connor focused on her decision to tear up the photo of John Paul II as the single moment in a life of protest and defiance. The media was making me out to be crazy because I wasn't acting like a pop star was supposed to act. It seems to me that being a pop star is almost like being in a type of prison, and that you're expected to be a good girl. Sinead O'Connor passing away this week. She broke out with the single Nothing Compares to You, then caused an uproar a few years later by ripping up a photo of Pope John Paul II on Saturday Night Live. Download the Live 365 app. Search WDCE to listen to the show on radio. Follow me at Sam Newsman all over social media. And make sure that you text 901 to 804 569 5678. That's 901 to 804 569 5678. Hashtag Sam the Vote. We have 2 more days left. And it's up to you whether or not you want Saturday morning to continue to reign supreme. Setting the standard, raising the bar, the only way a real media puppet knows how to do here on the only radio show dedicated to the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real media puppet. From the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell. I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Saturday morning.
We have confidence in the victory of good over evil. Fight the real enemy.